Well, hello there everybody, my name is Paticus Roth, and welcome to episode 2 of the Dwarf Fortress tutorial. In the last episode, we went over the Lazy Noob Pack, getting the game, and our basic world gym. We set up a world, and now we can all play. So, now as unlike before, you have the Start Playing option, and this is where we actually start getting into the game. So, without further ado, let's let's use the arrow keys to go to Start Playing and hit Enter. Now, the more worlds you set up, the more regions you'll have. You guys will more than likely only have Region 1. I have Region 1 and 2, but just for the sake of consistency, I'll be going with Region 2, which I generated in the last video. So, now that we're here, we have 3 options. Dwarf Fortress, which is a standard mode. You start out with 7 dwarves, and you play in a little area depending on where you choose, and you just try to survive, and you build workshops and statues and forts and bridges and all sorts of fun things, and you fight off invaders and, you know, just whatever it is that you come across, and that's the basic part of the game. Now, the next thing that we have is Adventurer mode. Now, this is a very old standard kind of roguelike simulator portion of the game, where if you ever played anything like Unreal World or you know, coming up with examples is a little tough at the moment, but you know, you basically, it's a 2D screen, you got your character in the middle, and you just roam around and you talk to NPCs, and it's all fun, but that's not what we're going to be going over in this video. And our third option here is Legends. Now, this is where you can go into the history of the world, see all the major figures which we saw generated in the World Gen, see who is a king, who is not, who has killed who, any giant mega bees who have killed people or not, or who've gone extinct, or, you know, who has stabbed who and who has cheated on who, you know, just whatever. Now, you can go look through that in your own time. It's a little bit complicated, but it should be pretty straightforward. You just go to the names and you see who it is, and I'll let you do that on your own. And I'll give you about 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, and we're done. And we're going to go to Dwarf Fortress and hit Enter. So it'll take it just a moment to load up, because Dwarf Fortress does take a second. Alright, here we go. Now, as I said before, we will be using the Iron Hand graphics pack. So if you are using Phobius or the ASCII, if you are very brave, it will look quite a good bit different from this, but you should be able to get the same sort of idea from it anyway. So the first thing that I would like to go over is your local region and world screens. Now, what I'd like you to do is imagine that the world it's your world. I mean, if you use the arrow keys, you can move around on each of these screens, and you can kind of look around, and you should be able to figure this out pretty easily on your own. But the best explanation I can come for it is, in the last video I said that each screen is a more zoomed in of the previous one. You know, the world screen, the region screen is a more zoomed in version of the region the region screen is a more zoomed in version of the world screen, and the local screen is a far more zoomed in version of the region screen. So basically, your region just gives you a better idea of what you're more specifically around than in the world screen, and then the local screen shows you exactly what is in that one square on the region screen. So just within this one square, you have the local area. So, and each one of these is different. So as we maybe, you know, look around. Okay, actually, I think the next more important thing to do before what I was going to say was need to explain exactly what each of these squares mean. Obviously, I'm pretty sure you can assume, considering it says the Diamond Ocean, that the area that we're looking at right now is an ocean. This just blue area is obviously an ocean, and that's pretty straightforward, although most people still have issues with that. These more green areas that look like broccoli or trees are trees. These are jungles or forests. It'll usually say up there at the top right, you can see this is called the Jungles of Containing. It's obviously a jungle. These triangles, these gray triangles, are indicative of mountains. These are usually not going to be places that you would want to go, although they can have some fun things in them. And then up here, these roads are specifically roads that lead in between each town. They are very helpful, and you can embark on them, but we won't be doing that. So now that we've kind of explained a little bit about that, and some of that, we're going to go over here to the side where it says the name of each area and kind of a little bit more about it. So let's go back down here to the jungle that we were looking at, because this gave a really good example of everything that we would need to see. So this is the Jungle of Containing. It is a temperate conifer forest. Now, if you don't know what temperate means, it means the temperature is, you know, it might get a little cold in winter, it might get a little hot in summer, but overall, the weather is going to be pretty normal. The trees, heavily forested. Now this can vary from having no trees to being, as this is, heavily forested. That just means there are going to be a shit ton of trees. Now, this is both a good and a bad thing in that with a lot of trees, you're going to have a lot of wood, meaning that, you know, if you want to make a lot of wood products, by all means, you have the trees. But on the other hand, it also means that you're going to, if you want to do anything on the surface, or you have to cut down trees so that wagons can reach your fort, you're going to have a tough time. In fact, you're going to have a bad time. And then you have your other vegetation, which is thick. Now this is stuff like wild strawberries, wild shrubs, stuff like that. These do not really get in the way of anything, and having this as an increase usually isn't a bad thing. But vegetation is usually indicative of the surroundings, which in this case is untamed wilds. Now imagine if the old D&D where you have like chaotic, good, and neutral and all that. The surroundings go in that respect, where there's sliding scales of good, evil, wild, beast, and just nothing in general. Now, this is not evil. It's new. It's pretty much chaotic neutral. Like, there's just a lot of random animals, and they're very dangerous animals, but they're not like undead animals, and they're not magical pixie animals that'll rape you. They're just, you know, you're just cougars and lions maybe, and you know, just stuff like that. They're nothing overt, but they're still very dangerous animals because I made untamed wilds. Now, up here you can see wilderness. This is a little bit less so in the wilderness surroundings area than the untamed wilds. You're still going to have some dangerous animals, but it's not going to be as extreme or in as great of numbers. Now, if we get a little bit closer to the ocean, over here you can see that the surroundings are a little bit more calm. You're still going to have some wild animals, but it'll be a little bit less so, more in the line of, you know, badgers and ferrets and porcupines and, you know, stuff like that. You might have the occasional eagle, and if you're still near an area, see, we may be in a calm area here in this region. The yellow X is us, by the way. I figured I should mention that. Might be calm here, but over here it starts to move over into the wilderness. You can still have stuff move in between these areas, so you will have that to worry about. Also, in this area, you can see that the temperature is no longer temperate. It is hot. Now that means liquids on the surface during the peak months, summer and spring, will evaporate. And if you have a river or ponds, or little ponds and stuff like that, they will evaporate and you will lose your water. Where on the other hand, if we move up just a little bit, you have scorching. And these are badlands. I mean, it's scorching. Trees are scarce. Vegetation's scarce. Surroundings are calm because nothing wants to live up here. Water all year round will be gone. There will be no winter, and it is very hot. I'm pretty sure, depending on the area you're in and depending on the other surrounding things with it, you can reach outside temperatures of 140 degrees Fahrenheit in these areas. Now, you do not have the options to check these in-game, but they are in some various other utilities that you can use. And it is bullshit in these areas. You will have a hell of a time. So, with that in mind, we're not going to go with the scorching, and we're not even going to go with the hot. I would honestly say that your best bet, if you want to start up, is find an area that is temperate. Now, you may be thinking, but Pat, there's some more stuff with clay and soil. Yes, there is. And I was going to go over that after I got done with that. So, as you can see here in this area, we have shallow clay, very deep soil, an aquifer which I'm keeping on because I like to, shallow metal, and deep metals. Now, the S at the end of these are very important because that is indicative of more than one. Now, deep metals with the S at the ends means there's more than one. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Shallow clay. Shallow clay just means that pretty close to the surface there's going to be clay, because, you know, that's a pretty easy one to figure out, and clay is very useful for making pottery and just that sort of stuff in general. That should be pretty obvious to most people. Now, very deep soil means you're going to have several layers of soil. Now, this is a good thing and a bad thing depending on your personal preferences. With very deep soil, you have a larger layer before you get to the stone layer, and people can find that annoying if you just want to get to the stone and be a dwarf. But on the other hand, very deep soil gives you more soil levels to farm on. You can dig down a little bit, kind of start making some rooms out, and farm down there. Underground farming, there are some plants that can only be grown underground. And as dwarves, since we live most of our lives underground, obviously you're probably going to have more underground ones than you are going to have above ground ones. Now, the aquifer is, as I've said before, an annoying little son of a bitch that I will explain, but I will not be going over too much detail. That will have its own specific video, so that should give you an idea of how bullshit this is. Now, an aquifer is a layer in the ground that just contains water. Now, if you are, just a water guy, you would know that it's usually a type of soil or something, whatever layer, that just holds water. Now, in Dwarf Fortress, when you dig into that layer, it just contains water. And it contains an infinite amount of water, and they are very, very hard to get past, because dwarves don't like to swim. So once they see that water, they're going to cancel everything and be like, I ain't digging there. Motherfucker, that's got water. Why would I do? No, and then they won't. They really won't. That will be the end of your digging in that area until you can find a way around it. And finding ways around it are tough. That's why there's a whole video going to be dedicated to it. Now, the next thing we have are shallow metal and deep metals. Now, these can obviously change. Let's go find another area. See, right here, we have shallow metals and deep metals. The S at the end is very, very important. Shallow metals are ones that you'll find in the upper rock layer. So maybe you'll start just getting to the rock layer and you might find some zinc or nickel or whatever. I mean, it could be all sorts of things, but however many metals you have, that's how many there will be. If it's just shallow metal, you will only find one metal. If it's a shallow metal and you are like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll just find some iron and it'll be good. And then you find zinc, or nickel. Oh, nickel. You're done. There's no other metal. And the only other metal you'll be able to find on that map is through trading or invaders, if, you get that far. But with deep metals are usually a little bit more rich, and that could be anywhere between platinum or gold, which is useless as fuck, by the way, or iron. Iron is usually more often going to be found deeper down. So shallow metals are very good, deep metals are very good. You want to usually try to find both. Now, there's one more thing that we need to find specifically. These are a little bit more harder to find, but we did find one earlier. There we go. Flux stone. Now, these are important because a flux stone is something that is a type of stone that has a lot of carbon in it. Now, you may be asking, what is the point of that? Well, carbon, a stone that has a lot of carbon in it, is used to make iron. It's part of the process to make iron. You take the raw iron, or not iron, but steel. You take iron and a flux stone, and then you can make steel. Iron requires that extra carbon to be upgraded to that. So with flux stone, that can really boost a very powerful metal industry into a complete giant. So where you would have shallow metals and deep metals here, with that addition of flux stone, you would be able to just be like, oh, okay, well, we've got maybe a little bit of iron and a little bit of copper, but with this flux stone here, we can go all the way and make steel, and it'll be good. It'll be very good. Steel is far more important than iron, and it would serve you very, very well. So, with that in mind, we have shallow clay here, very deep soil, an aquifer, shallow metals, deep metals, and flux stone. This seems like a pretty good place for us to embark. Now, with the U, H, K, and M keys, now you can see it down here, you can move around on the local screen and choose an area that's very specific to what you want. And also, if you notice that there are different kind of areas, like right here where I'm at in the local screen, it is a temperate shrubland. There's, same temperature, but there's less wood and less vegetation, and the surroundings are about the same. Now, you might also notice that over in this area, that there is not the flux stone, whereas on the other side of this river here, we do have it. Now, if you see down at the bottom, you have F1 and 2, where you can specify which biome you want to have selected at the moment, and it'll show you what's in each. Now, that little square right there shows just completely where we are going to embark, and we can encompass both biomes, and we will find both biomes worth of things within those squares in game. Now, you can use Shift, U, and K to expand your area, and I'm going to be doing that. Now, 5x5 is usually what I go for. If you want a smaller area, if you have a weaker computer, I would suggest that. So I will be making a slightly bigger area, and we will have one biome up here, which will be the shrubland, and one biome over here, which will be the temperate conifer forest. I might actually move that up a bit. Now, this blue line that's moving through the screen, by the way, on the local menu, is a stream. Now, this can help you also get fish, which we will talk about later on, and is a good source of water. So, with everything here selected, we found a very nice area with the shallow clay, the soil, the aquifer, the metals, and the flux stone. Everything that I need to show off, we're going to go to embark. And I've chosen a large area. I may experience lag, and enter. Now, you can either play now, prepare carefully, or use one of the other things below. I do not ever suggest hitting play now. That is honest to God a trap. Now, you can use one of these down here if you want, but I'm going to be showing you guys how to prepare carefully. So, right here we have our very first 7 dwarves. Now, before we get on into even this stuff, we're going to be ending up the video because we have just talked about embarking, or the first part of embarking, and this next part is going to be how to arm our dwarves, and this is going to be a long one. So I hope everybody has enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. It's going to be a day, guys. See you guys in the next video.